On the Age of Reinvention, I explore relocation and the expat lifestyle through the real-life experiences of expats, people who move from Western countries abroad, and immigrants, people who live for years in the West. Who is Emily Bron, owner of the international lifestyle consulting from Canada? My life has been a series of relocations and adaptations. I was born and raised in the former Soviet Union, witnessed societal changes during the perestroika, relocated to Ukraine, and later, with my family, immigrated to Israel, where I had to navigate a new language, profession, and society. My second immigration, in Canada, we face the challenges of integrating into a new country and adapting to a different climate and lifestyle. Currently, I'm preparing for my next life chapter and relocation to Mexico. I offer my knowledge about relocation and observations about current global relocation trends through the lens of immigrants who have lived for many years in the West. The life experiences shared by my guests are invaluable. I'm deeply grateful for the opportunity to share these insights with others who are considering a similar lifestyle change, particularly in the context of relocation and life abroad.
Hello, everyone. It's me, Emily Bron, and today I have pleasure speaking with my Canadian counterpart, which lives now in Mexico, and she has amazing relocation stories that I would be happy to hear as well together with you. So today is day for Les Karchewski. Leslie, please rewind your life movie, and go back to the time when you got the idea that you need to change something in your life, and you probably were living in Calgary, Alberta at this time, correct?
Thank you so much for having me. It's really an honor to share my story and hopefully help other people who are considering moving somewhere else, because it's not easy stepping into the unknown. And so my story started, I was just reflecting today, 20 years ago. And like, holy wow. And there wasn't a lot of internet back then, right? There wasn't a lot on the internet as far as resources. So my husband and I, we wanted to live and work abroad, and we were just trying to figure it out. How do we do this? Where do we go for information? So he was working, he would do business trips in and out of Saudi and Iran. And so he was just asking, it's just about networking, right? You just ask people, how'd you get here? What's your life like? Exactly like you interviewing me here. And so he found out that Oman was a really great place to live. We literally had to look it up in the atlas. We didn't know where it was, but it's south of Saudi near Dubai. And we just thought, well, that sounds really cool. That would be a great place. And so we were just continuing our search to find him a job that would take our family abroad, because we knew that was a possibility. And he ended up getting a job offer in Qatar, Doha, Qatar, and just made sure the basics were covered. He had a job. The kids would get international schooling paid for, and we had housing.
What about the language? You were not concerned?
No, because the kids were so the kids are a huge consideration. But at the time, they were 3 and 5 years old. I've got 3 daughters, 2 twins, and another one. And so the language wasn't an issue because we knew that they would be in an international school. And my networking would come from there for my friendships. And Corey's, his work was done in English anyway. So we were fine. So we just thought, okay, let's try it. You know what? If we don't like it, we can come back. You can always go back.
How old you were in this time, sorry?
I'll just tell you, our kids were 3 and 5.
Middle 30s.
We decided to keep our house, which honestly was the best thing we had ever done. Because that was our security. If we didn't like it, we can go back. We sold a lot of stuff, but we basically packed it up, put it in a container, and put it on the in-laws' farmland. Probably not the best way to do it, but whatever. We just thought we can always move home if we need to. And we moved sight unseen. We packed up 10 suitcases, 3 car seats, and we arrived in Doha, Qatar in the middle of August, 50 degrees and humidity that would knock your socks off. And we started our adventure. And there wasn't really a lot of internet there. So a lot of it was networking with your neighbors, networking with the parents at the schools, getting the kids organized, all that kind of stuff. So that was our first stop, and it was fun.
Because it was already expat community. Actually, you were part of already existing community. You probably lived in the same neighborhood where most of English-speaking people were.
Yeah, and mostly through the kids' connection at school, and that's how we build our community. But I think the greatest gift of living abroad is that as expats, we all were gathered into these countries from different countries, right? Like in my kids' schools, at one point, there was student body consisted of over 50 nationalities. So I was friends with people from all over the world because we are all there in the same boat, making a life in a country that's not our own. And we're all trying to navigate through it. So we're able to support each other. And same with the children, right? And it was just so eye-opening and culturally rich. I would never exchange that experience in a million years. It was great.
It's not what you had back in Calgary, back in your days, because for me, living in Toronto, I have exposure, at least over the recent years, with many different cultures, but it was a little bit different for Calgary these days.
But you're just not really exposed to it. I think when we live in our own country, we just actually, when you don't even live in your own country, we can create our own little bubble of like-minded people and not move outside of that. And what moving abroad helped my whole family do and experience is be involved in other cultures. Like at their school, we would have international days where everybody shares their food and we celebrated everything. We celebrated Chinese New Year, Diwali, Eid, Christmas, all of it as a oneness. There was no division. There was no, you can't say the word Christmas, it's happy holidays, right? We celebrated all of it together and shared with each other. And I think that was the best thing. And it wasn't without its challenges, but you also had community there. And then we were only in Qatar for about a year and a half. And then the job offer for Oman came up. So we're like, okay, let's go there. So we went there and it just got better.
So you moved after 1.5 years to what, please?
So we were in Doha, Qatar, which is in the Middle East. And then after a year and a half, my husband got a job offer to move to Muscat, Oman, which is also in the Middle East, the same area, but it was like another country move. And we'd stayed there a long time. We loved it. 7.5 years we were there. But one of the things is we just didn't move abroad to make another country our home. We moved abroad to experience different cultures and have different experiences.
How Oman was different for comparing with Qatar?
Back then, Qatar was a little bit more difficult as far as red tape and stuff like that, and a little more limited because it's just the country. And then if you wanted to drive out of the country, you have to go through Saudi. And at that time, there was a lot of limitations. I don't know what it's like now. Yeah, and it was just a smaller country, right? We really wanted to get to Oman because it had the beautiful beaches, it had rainforests, it had mountains, it was diverse. We got out camping and we explored way more of the countryside from there. Plus, we found the people were different in Oman. And I must add, everybody thinks, oh my God, you're going to the Middle East. Is it safe? Do you have to wear an abaya? Do you have to cover your face? Those are all things that are programmed to us sometimes from our home country. I have to say that living in the Middle East, I've never felt so safe.
But it depends on what country you are living. Let's be fair.
Exactly. And then you have to also live by their rules, right? And respect. No, I didn't have to cover my hair either, or my face, either in Qatar or Oman. I didn't have to do that. But you be respectful. You wear long sleeves and conservative clothing when you're out in public in the social spaces. But other than that, the beach or the compounds or wherever you're living, you can wear whatever you want, do whatever you want.
So what was the next move?
Oman was fantastic and it was a great base to go and see the world. We'd have great family trips and stuff like that. And my kids got the most amazing education there just because it was so multicultural and diverse. It was just amazing. And then after about 7.5 years, we decided, okay, we love Oman, but we didn't do this to make another country our home. So we transferred to London, England. It was hard. What was super interesting about that one was I had this idea that, oh, they speak English. They're like a Western country. It'll be easier. It is so culturally different than Canada. It's still also a culture shock. And I think that when you are moving abroad, you need to know and understand that, yeah, there is a culture shock. And yeah, people don't do things the same way you do. So you need to figure out how you're going to navigate this and how to learn to operate within the social guidelines of that country. Because if you think that you're going to move abroad and live as a Canadian as you do here in Canada and be like firm in your beliefs and how you do things, I think that's where people could definitely struggle.
But what is the big difference? Can you explain a little bit? Because Canada, UK, Commonwealth, like we are under UK, and in Canada, we closer to UK rather than to US, not geographically, but culturally. What kind of differences you found? Maybe because you lived in the Middle East for many years, right?
And I think when you move to the Middle East with people, for me, I'm not Muslim. So I know that the culture is entirely different from my Canadian culture. And I do. And it's easy to accept. They do it this way. It's not my country. So I will adapt to their rules because I am a guest in their countries. But when we moved to the UK, first of all, I cried. It was so cold. And I'd come from 40 degrees to rain. It was cold and it was a tough adjustment there. But I just thought that for some reason in my head, I thought that the culture would be the same as Canada, but it's not. They are in the UK. It was super interesting. And I loved to experience it. They're very steeped in tradition and the history. And the people are a little more reserved until you get to know them. Then they're super fun. But yeah, that part was different. And my kids were in a different kind of school. They were in an American school, and it was less multicultural. There's obviously a lot of Americans, a lot of English, fewer people from other countries and stuff like that. So it was just different for us. But you got to go with the flow, build your community, find your people, find your support. I was never able to work. I did well in Oman, and I went back to teaching swimming lessons and stuff like that, just for fun, swim coaching and stuff like that. That was great. Volunteering at the school, stuff like that, but not formal work. I see it as my job or my position as an expat wife was, I'm here to support the family, to support my spouse so he can work, and I'll do everything else. Take care of the kids. I'll take care of all the great trips that we got to do. And I took care of everything else. I'll build the communities. I'll make the household, all of that. So that was my role.
Okay, and at some point you decided to come actually back to Canada. What was the driver?
Yeah, that was the universe pushing us in a direction that we did not want to go, but in hindsight, it was the direction we needed to go. We were in London for 3 years, and my kids now are teenagers. When you're shifting teenagers, it's a whole different ball games than when you're shifting kids who are like under 8 years old. Under 8 years old, they're malleable, it's easier. But as they get older and they get their friend groups and stuff like that, it's a little bit more emotionally difficult for them to move. So even when we moved to London, they were ready to go because they saw the expat community. Everybody's going somewhere else. When do we get to go experience something else? That's literally what they wanted. So sorry, I'll just backtrack a bit. So when we moved to London, we engaged them in the process, in house hunting and the school and all that stuff to help them feel more secure in what we were doing. But after 3 years, we were going to be repatriated without work, which means back to Canada, you no longer have a job. My one daughter was currently in grade 11 and the twins were in grade 9. So my one daughter was in the middle of IB program. So that was a difficult shift to try and switch her for 1 year of high school. So we tried so hard as a team, my husband and I, he had tons of job interviews, but nothing was really panning out like for us. The doors kept closing and we're just like, why is this so hard?
You mean in Canada, you couldn't find work?
No, just trying to find another job. We didn't want to repatriate at all, but all the doors kept closing, and it just did not make sense. And so we decided to leave our one daughter in private school in England for a year and board so that she could finish her IB. And then we took the twins back to Canada with us where they started high school. So yeah, we landed back in Calgary, and they do say repatriation is the hardest thing you'll ever do. And it really is, because now you're a square peg trying to fit into a round hole. And they say that don't rely on your old friends because they've moved on. And I'm thinking, okay, yeah, sure. But it's true. You are an entirely different person with a different wider world perspective. And you're coming back to that little neighborhood that you were once in, where people really haven't left other than their trips to Costa Rica. Yeah, I've been to London for a week, things like that. And it was really hard. My kids, they wouldn't tell anybody, their peers, their life experiences, because they didn't want them to think they were boasting. And I remember my one daughter came home and she goes, Mom, did you know so-and-so has lived in this house for his whole life? And I'm like, yes, everybody lives their lives differently. But repatriation was tough.
So what did you find? How did you find in life in Canada, or say in Calgary and Alberta? Because there are differences between provinces. After many years being away, what struck you as different? Why you felt that you are not aligned?
It's still, Calgary's always still my home. It's always still my home base. I was born there and mostly grew up there. And I love it. It's just as a perspective, as the human being that I've become with all my experiences living abroad or whatever. In our lives, we seek out like-minded people. There's not a lot of people who have had the life experiences I have or that have lived abroad that I could find in my community, right?
There are many immigrants that I believe in Calgary. There are many immigrants, people from different cultures.
Definitely there are. And I joined, and as you do, like when you move countries, you join the groups, you find your people. As I say, you interview for new friends and you make new connections. But I don't actually, for me, probably my heart wasn't in it. And I knew I needed to be elsewhere. So it was great for our kids. It was great for a lot of reasons being back in Calgary. We got exactly what we needed. The support. In fact, it was so meant to be that we were in Calgary for 10 days in our rental apartment waiting for our container to arrive so that we can move back into the exact same house we had left 12 years prior, which was the best thing. Within 10 days, he had a job and he wasn't even looking, right? So I think, and that just showed me, if you are trying to move forward on a hope or a dream or a goal, and if you keep getting door closed after door closed, or you're just hitting dead ends constantly and everything is frustrating and you don't understand why, maybe there's something out there that you should be doing differently. And for us, that was it. We needed to be in Calgary for all of our life paths to go the directions that they went. So, like when you look back in your life, it's
It's a sign. It's a sign of the changing direction.
Yeah, it really is.
But now you're speaking with me not from Calgary, as far as I see surrounding.
Life changes and things change, and my life situation changed. So now I'm on my own. I'm so grateful for COVID because you know what it brought? It brought the ability to work from home. And so my life was changing. I said, I'm moving somewhere else for now. And my employer said, can you still work for us? Oh, sure, I'll still work. And then I'm like, I don't want to be in Canada anymore. I really need to be in the warmth. And so I think I'm going to move to Mexico. Have you ever been to Mexico? I honest to God think I was the only person, Canadian, who hadn't been to Mexico because I was on the other side of the world my whole adult life, pretty much, right? So I'm like, yeah, no, but I'm just going to go.
But why Mexico? Why not Costa Rica, for example? Another popular destination, or Panama, where people like to spend time.
So the beauty of 20 years later is the internet. Research, get on the Facebook groups. Where do I want to live? I knew I wanted a nice climate. And then I had some guidelines. I need an easy in, easy out, aging parents, things like that, all year round, not just part of the year, all year round. And I wanted to drive. I wanted to take my car because there's beauty in not having any belongings. You are so free. All I did was pack up my car. That's everything I own. I've done it before. I can do it again. So I was thinking, okay, I want to go to Costa Rica.
You know what? Mexico ticking all boxes. Yeah. Costa Rica, you need to fly. Panama, you need to fly. And Mexico, it's achievable, as they say. And immigration rules are the most easy for us, Canadians and Americans. And people need to appreciate it. Yeah. So you were just driving by, like by United States, saying bye to everybody?
Yeah. So it was a process because I said to my work, I'm moving to Mexico. I'll still work for you if you want. And they said, okay, legal needs to look at it. So I gave them all the information that they needed to look at. And they said, okay. And so I packed up my car and I drove down. And I just knew intuitively where I needed to be. So I landed in Puerto Vallarta, set up my work, and started living here. And if I didn't like it, I could go home because it doesn't matter.
So you started in Puerto Vallarta, your Mexican kind of relocation chapter. So you still there?
I'm just north in a town called Bucerias. I live just north of Puerto Vallarta. This is more my vibe. I have community here and I like it. The water's cleaner, the beach, I can just walk down to the beach.
And when you say community, you mean new expat community or locals? What do you mean by community in your case?
Yeah, so Facebook is a wonderful tool, right? And then just reaching out to people who helped you connect to this person who helps you connect to that person, so on and so forth. So my community is mostly expats, mostly Canadians and Americans, but I do have a few Mexican friends that I love hanging out with. But the interesting thing about my Mexican friends is like one in particular, she was born in Guadalajara. When she was 8, she moved to Seattle. And then I think when she was like 20 years later, she came back to Mexico. So she's had that expat experience as well.
So you're still dealing with your Canadian work? Like what happened? Like I feel that some other changes are underway. Like listening to your stories and actually understanding your adventures, mornings. What is next on Leslie?
These last few years, I've really learned to literally follow my heart and listen to my intuition. So my whole life as an expat before, and then the repatriation has taught me, if it's not flowing, it's not meant for you, right? And just listen to the guidance in your head. Ooh, that's a scary idea. You're going to move to Mexico on your own? Yeah, it's scary. Anything worth doing is. how do we experience anything new if we don't step into the scary unknown? So I just listen to the little nudges, and they never have, they don't serve me wrong, only when I don't listen to them. So, for example, I was working from home and I was just having the weirdest difficulties with tech. Nothing's working out, whatever. And then I got a message in my head that says, you need to quit your job. I'm like, what? You need to quit your job. And I'm here because I have a job. That was like my little safety rope, right? But when I've listened before, it's never steered me wrong. So I quit. And then the day I quit, all my tech starts working. Like the day I tell my boss I'm done, all my tech starts working again and things are flowing. So yeah, since the end of August, or since August, I've not been working because I've been taking care of my finances in other ways and setting myself up and making sure that I am secure. So I have time for that. I have time for community. I have time for projects. I have time to actually learn Spanish.
Congratulations. Yes, it's not easy. So what about children? How they accepted your movements, I would say?
Yeah, they're grown now. They're 25 and just about to turn 23. And there are children who don't want to stay in one place. They want to go out again and experience the world. But right now they're just getting some education, getting their feet grounded as young adults. But I might cry a little bit when I say this, but so I went to see them before I was driving out. And my one daughter said, Mom, you doing this makes me think I can do it too.
Absolutely. I feel they will join you at least for some time, each of them.
Yeah. And that to me was the greatest gift from that I could ever receive, to model to my kids that it is worth it to take risks, to seek the unknown and to go for it. If it's your desire, try it. You can always go back. You can always go do something else. There's no mistakes.
Even you mentioned yourself, it's hard to go back because when you're going back, you're a different person and the place you're going back is different. So, but you had all this experience. You lived through the different stages of expectation and a little bit disappointment, but actually working hard to find new you and like the place or adjust yourself or yourself to adjust to the place. It's working both ways, right?
Definitely. Yeah, you got to be flexible. Things don't work in this country like they do elsewhere. And you're not going to bully yourself into getting something different. It's the way it is. So accept it. My power's been off, I don't know how many times. And then the water was just off today. And it's just the way it is. It'll come back on. Like, just wait.
Okay, you quickly became Mexican in this sense because it's a relaxed lifestyle and pace of life and services, and maybe sun is influencing our mood and our perception, right?
Yeah, definitely. A couple of weeks ago here, it was rainy for 4 days. And I'm like, is it done yet? Because I need some sunshine.
So what is your life now? How you spend your days?
Oh, I'm actually busy. So I've been creating my finances and figuring all of that out. And I'm in community and I've got projects going on with other people and just sharing and celebrating life and I don't know, enjoying every moment. It's great. It's really great. I just want to say something though, like for people who want to move to Mexico, it is great. You need to learn Spanish. It's not easy. I'm trying. And they appreciate it if you at least try, right? They really do. But it's not cheap. It's not the cheap place that I believe it potentially was 4 or 5 years ago. If you intend on staying in a place like where I am, or a touristy area, or the Great Beach, or what have you, it's going to cost you pretty much what it costs in Canada. Yeah. But if you want to go into local community, then you're going to live for a lot cheaper and you need to know the language pretty strongly.
Absolutely. So you didn't learn the language in advance. You started full immersion in Bucerias and how you feel with your proficiency.
Yeah, it's coming along. I didn't have time because I was working, right? So by the end of the workday, you have your household tasks, your life tasks, and then sit down and learn Spanish. Ugh. I couldn't, but we're taking lessons. We have a teacher come in twice a week. And so I'm learning a lot there. Duolingo is not the way to go. A couple other apps and listening to stories in Spanish and stuff like that. And what I'm finding is I hear all the words and I recognize them, but I don't know what you're saying. It'll come. It's just like all these words are jumbled in my head and it'll come.
Right. Like you have very positive, correct, positive attitude to take what is coming, to process it like in a healthy way. What is not available now will be available tomorrow. So what about your immigration status? Are you settled on this side?
Yeah, I came in because I drove my car. I came in under temporary residency because I started that process in Canada at the Mexican conflict because I wanted to bring my car. But now I'm being guided. Messages are coming that I need permanent. So I'm going to hit up to Canada and then come in under permanent residency so that I have that. I don't know why.
Oh, without waiting like required term time?
Yeah, without waiting the 3 years. Because my temporary is up for renewal at the end of March anyway. So I'm just going to renew as a permanent.
Okay, if you can do it, it's a way to go. And again, it's convenient. Like in your case, a little bit not convenient because you need to come back to Calgary, I understand. But actually, it's all doable, as I say. And so how do you feel? Because again, it's a new culture, different food, different climate. Again, if you compare with Vallarta, different mentality of the people. Even you live in expat communities, as I understand, like surrounded, but it's not gated community, yes?
No, I live in a local neighborhood. Like my neighbors are in my building are Mexican and there's a lovely guy sits outside all day down the street. So yeah, it's local, but there is a lot of expats here for sure. And the weather, I love the weather. I loved living in the Middle East, the heat. I never complained if it was 40 degrees. At least it's not minus 30. So the weather's fine for me. Absolutely.
What about humidity in your area? Summertime.
It's hot, but I'm not going to complain. At least you can go outside and lay on the beach and be in the water or be by a pool or something like that, right? So I love it. I absolutely love it.
So what are your plans for the future? I'm not asking about future changes, because let your internal compass lead you what to do. But at least, do you have some plans? How you see yourself doing something probably that you love? I feel like looking at your smile. What is on your mind?
I'm looking for property to buy and I want to get out of the tourist area and up into a little bit of the mountains and looking for something not in a gated community, but in a community of like-minded people where we get our produce from local farmers, where we have our own water source and we support each other in that community is what I'm looking for. So we'll see what that future brings. But in the meantime, I'm happy to be where I am and in Bucerias and walking distance to the beach and enjoying that while I can.
So interesting that you are ready to trade beach and distance to the beach to some far away place, but with community of like-minded people. Yes?
Yeah.
Did you find this like-mindedness, or you just looking for the different project? Because I know there's a lot of construction in Mexico, but when you don't know who would be your neighbors, or you're looking specifically for the certain type of neighbors. What is your strategy here?
My strategy is listen to my guidance. And yeah, I just have a vision of what it's going to be like. It'll just be people living in community, but not like a granola kind of thing. No, I don't know. It'll just come to me when the time is right. I will feel it in my heart where I need to buy, where I need to be, but it will just come when the time is right. You can't push these things. I've opened my energy up to what I want and we'll see what is bestowed upon me.
So even I feel that you became a completely different person. Even I didn't know you 20 years ago or 10 years ago, but like your own narrative of listening to yourself and this internal voice, which you trust now, because sometimes there are voices, but which might take us apart. We don't know what to do, but you now get to the stage of this, how you will define it? Balance with your internal.
I think so. It's very difficult to trust. But you know what? There's no wrong decisions. There's no wrong decisions. It's taught me patience. When I first moved to PB and I was I was just like 1 month accommodation and I needed to find something and I had pressure because I needed to find something to support because I had to work, right? I had to keep my work going. And I found a great place. And then it was just the answers were, nope, that's not the place. But it's a great place. Nope, that's not the place. And here I am in the best place I could ever imagine. It's something better.
Congratulations, like you really found in your internal compass leading you in correct time to the correct direction, and you're accepting it. And I wish everyone listening to us or actually living the life would have such a compass, because it's a big actually. And like when I see you smiling and I'm speaking with you second time and I feel your positive energy, it's obviously the place for you to be and enjoy it. And I believe in Mexico you can find many different type of places which will match like you differently in some time, or would be on a different journey. Okay, it's maybe too complicated, but I believe everyone would understand me. Last question, which is actually I'm asking everyone on the interview, and all the series designed for people who are above 50 and for people who are looking for the new life chapter, being it relocation, changing profession maybe, or starting new business, or coming to the new life chapter or life understanding after personal crisis. And sometimes it's together, like several reasons. And here I'm asking the question, what is in your opinion, at what age person became old? And what is your definition of being old or still being young and active?
Old is however old you think you are, honestly. And at what point do people become old? Maybe this is just my own biased opinion, but maybe you become old when you give up, or when you just stop adventuring, or when you just settle. Or to be young is to be vibrant, to take risks, to live your life to the fullest. And age is just a number. I don't know. I feel 35. That's the number I'm thinking.
Yeah, so the more time you are actually ideas you have, and not only have, but you're moving to the new direction, you're learning, you're developing, so you actually prolonging your young Leslie or your young human being. So I believe, and I understand that some people might have physical disabilities, some limitations that might stop them in some way. But I think being young and in mind, not only mindset, but actually in desires to experience something new, to learn, to be with people, or to be with nature, or to be both in a different time intervals. I think desires to live and to enjoy the life, what keep us young. And I wish you to be young as long as your internal compass will be working. And I believe that Mexico is a place as a magnet attracting many people, like adventurous souls. It's not for everyone. It's not for everyone. As no country is for everyone. So I wish your compass will be always on this magnet of activity, of smiles, and to find your community, to find your dream place in Mexico.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to speak with you. And today I was with Leslie Karchewski.
Leslie had shown that with the right attitude, the sky is the limit. Whether you're drafting your first pros and cons list or already packing up your life, remember Leslie's stories. It's about much more than just changing your others. It's about crafting your desired life with intention and proper preparation. Ready to embrace a new chapter? Start exploring, connect with like minded individuals, and even contact us. Still trying to decide the next step? It is okay too. Take one day at a time. Reflect on what lights you up and fuels your enthusiasm, just like Leslie found her joy in Mexico. Before you go, drop a comment below or send us a message. Are you considering a move? What is your dream retirement destination? Let's get the conversation going. Until next time, keep your compass pointed towards your passions and remember, the journey itself is a home.